All right, we're going to talk about the Rabbid Raccoon today. I have a special guest with me. If you want to briefly introduce yourself.
Sure. Thanks for having me. My name is Megan Giammarco. A lot of folks know me as Granny Giammarco. Been running for about years now and started running with Butler County Milers a little over a year ago. So,
All right, so since we're talking about the Rabbid Raccoon, which race did you participate in?
we actually created a relay team for the 100-mile relay involving typically we were hoping for everyone over 40, but it didn't quite work out that way. But all Butler County Miler folks, and yeah.
Which leg of the relay did you participate in?
I was spoiled. I got the first leg, so had the beautiful weather, not too cold. Course wasn't too trashed yet, so.
All right, so with you doing the first leg, how would you describe the course in your own words?
Better than expected. We had the rain the day before, and a lot of folks were talking about how muddy it was going to be. And don't get me wrong, the spots that were muddy, they were muddy, but there were a lot of other spots that were really runnable. And that's coming from somebody that doesn't run a lot of trails. The last year I've been focused mainly on road and rail trails. So if I managed to stay vertical, I feel it wasn't too bad.
Well, yeah, you got lucky too then, I guess.
Yes.
I know Sarah talked about it, and I also said that a couple of the other people I talked to, they called it peanut butter mud. Would you?
Yeah. There were definitely spots where it's like you're not me personally anyway. I'm not going to run through that. I'm just going to kind of slog, for lack of better words. Yeah.
Well, sometimes it's better that way because once you slip, you're either going to fall on your butt or twist an ankle. So it's always, I guess, best that even I do it a lot of times is I tiptoe it or I ride the edges and try to get around it a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what did you do to like prep for the race? Like your training, or did you change it up at all?
So this is probably going to sound awful. Not a lot of plan going into this one, only because I had a full marathon in February and end of February too. So I knew my distance, I was going to be fine. And it happened to be a pretty hilly marathon. It was down in Tennessee. It had like 1,600 feet of elevation. So I'm like, okay, it's not flat anyway. So I came off of that. And in the meantime, I was still trying to keep my base mileage up pretty high. So really the only thing specific that I did for this was just trying to keep hammering my hill work. I did try to get on trail a little bit more than I typically do, but it was honestly, too little too late. So I definitely felt underprepared going into this one. I didn't rest as much as normal, but all in all, it still seemed to work out okay. I mean, you always look for things you could do better, but I think just doing the hill work I did helped out.
Well, yeah, if you did a marathon a couple weeks ago, I mean, as you said, you were mileage wise, it wasn't like a hard, I wouldn't say hard thing, but like you were already like prepped for the miles that
Yeah, a
you were going to
lot.
do.
Yeah, a lot of my long runs have been around the 20-mile mark lately, so I felt comfortable in that respect. But I'm like, I know the hills and the fact that it's trail, the mud. I knew all that was going to kind of kick my butt a little bit, but at least I knew the distance wise I'd be comfortable with.
Well, that's always good. I mean, I guess it could be sand. Sand is horrible to run in, so at least you had mud, I guess.
Yeah, that's true.
Um, so how did you feel during the race overall? Do you have any issues? Like, because you said with the mud, was that really an issue, or like, how'd your body react to the trail conditions itself?
Um, this one was, it's cliche, but I had the high lows during this one. I felt some IT band pain around mile 6, so I got pretty conservative in the middle, slowed down massively, started getting passed by a lot of people who were doing the 20-mile course, which was, I mean, mentally that's hard, you know, because they started later, but I didn't realize the fact that I was actually further along in the race, but still, when you're getting past that doesn't feel good. So I kind of had a low section in the middle there. But once I got past that 10-mile mark, it was like, okay, this is no big deal. You're down to 9 miles now or whatever. It's like, that's a weeknight run for you. That's all you got to do is it's a weeknight run. You can do this. And then, the less miles, the more I kind of quit worrying about the IT band and just said, let's go for it. And ended on a really high note, which I can't say how grateful I am for that. I don't remember the last trail race I've been in that I actually felt good at the end of, usually I just feel defeated and kind of like, why can't I get better at this? This one ended on a pretty positive note, so I was happy with that.
Now, why would you say you ended on a positive note? Can you explain that a little bit?
I think I just felt stronger finishing this one. Like I knew I was starting to put everything out there. A lot of times when I run trails, I don't know, I'm too cautious maybe. And I always feel like I could have given more. This one, it's like, I felt like for where I was at, I gave everything I had,
Yeah, well, I tell people, I mean, like the way I run trails is I might be fast a little bit. People say I'm fast, but I run cautious because I always tell people I got to go to work on Monday. I still got to have an income. So like some people that you see just like blow by people are just so like what I want to say careless, even though they're good. I mean,
yeah,
I always see them in amazement, but I'm like, one little trip, you're done. And like you're saying, is you felt like you did a good job, you put it all out there, but sometimes you got to look at it like, hey, do I really want to like put my life at risk, or you know what I mean, livelihood at risk, I guess.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I definitely, that's my personality. I'm a little more on the cautious side. Like you said, one bad spill, you could be out a whole season, or even worse, you're off work because you you can't do your job or whatever. And I know a few of my teammates felt the same way too. And we talked about that. We all have things on the schedule further in the year, and we didn't necessarily want too many risks with this. Hence our team name, why we called ourselves Rabbid Grannies. A little more cautious out there. We're, a few of us are over 40 and we joke about breaking hips and things like that. So.
Yeah, the risk versus reward sometimes does play a big factor in trail races. Like even I noticed elites all the time, they do that risk versus reward. It's like, okay, if I ain't gonna win, like I see elites do this all the time. If I ain't gonna win, then they're just pulling back, being more cautious instead of getting hurt or ruining their season. So to me, when a runner decides to do that, it's, I guess, better is the easier term to use there.
Yeah. I mean, everybody's got to pick their race, and it can be anybody's day. But for me, if I'm on a road race, and not that I'm fast by any means, but it's like I guarantee you I'm going to give everything I have every single time on the road because I feel safer. There have been trail races I've gone to. I've been so frustrated at the end because it's like I've still got 40% left in the tank because I just didn't ever open up on this. It was too rocky or too technical or whatever. So, but this was nice. I mean, I felt like Rabbid. There were definitely some runnable sections. I was lucky on that first leg. They took us through the campground loop. So that felt great right off the bat to be able to open up there. And then again at the end, ending on a road, great for me because it's like that last mile and a half. It it's like, okay, let's go, put the gas on. So
In your opinion, was the course marked very well, or is there anything that you think you would have liked to have seen them do differently, uh, no matter where it would be on the course?
I that's a tough one. I felt like it was flagged good enough. There was some confusion, especially with that first leg, because there was a turn for the 20-mile solo race, and then there was a sign saying 100-mile. I remember thinking like, which one of these do I follow? I mean, yeah, I'm doing a 100-mile relay, but I'm doing a 20-mile leg. So there was some confusion with that. In fact, the other relay team from Butler County Milers, their first leg runner, Dave Snyder, who is considerably faster than I am. I was shocked when I heard him come up behind me. It's like, whoa, what's going on here? He unfortunately followed the wrong sign, and I could see why. So in that respect, yeah, maybe a little better signage. I know our overnight leg person, Lori Fromlack, she made a wrong turn as well and ended up down at the finish line. I mean, granted, she was running at night, but still, she said she just wanted to cry when she saw where she was, and she saw the guys at the finish line and said, I'm off track here, aren't I? And they're like, oh yeah. That ended up adding, I think, 3 extra miles to her leg. So yeah, maybe there could have been some better signing. I can't say I had any major issues though. I did feel like the flags were pretty often, but I did hear a few other people say that, some issues like that.
All right. I always like to ask that question because me as a race director myself, I always like to hear different things that people might nitpick on just because it gets the race director mindset going as well. Hey, what can I do to improve at mine? Or maybe that race director for this specific race hears it and they're like, sets off a little bit of something, I guess, like a bell. So they improve that on other races that they do as well.
Right, right.
Um, so I saw you actually at Aid Station 4, if you remember.
Yeah, yeah. We had a chance to chat a little bit. Yeah.
You guys had that big ice tent, which I was raving a little bit with Sarah. Now you guys had such a huge spread in there, and I was saying about the heat and the little portable tent that you guys had.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like that played a factor in you guys as a whole and as a team, like just having a centralized location uh, played a big role for the camaraderie and the things that you guys all did as a whole during the race.
Oh, absolutely. I personally, I feel like I'm closer to everybody after the past weekend, and can't say enough about the Harkars, Sean and Jamie. I mean, just how much they give of their time, their energy. I mean, Sean spent the whole day either helping people or cheering them on. That guy was on his feet constantly all day long, just available for whoever needed him. Jamie is the same way. So yeah, them having that spread there, I mean, that was awesome. I mean, I know it felt great to just get in there and warm up and sit down for, I probably was camped out in there a good hour and a half to 2 hours after my legs. So just having that presence too. I left for a little while to get showered and cleaned up and have a hot meal, but we got to get back and see what's going on. We had somewhere out of the elements to do that because dang, it got cold. When I was spoiled with leg one, not just the course, but that weather just kept getting worse and deteriorated. And I don't know what we wouldn't have done without the ice tent there. It was relatively toasty in there.
Now, is there anything that you wish you would have done differently during the race? Like maybe say, bring a certain food or maybe some gear that you would have wished you would have not worn or worn or something like that?
Yeah, definitely. Some things. I need to find maybe a little more aggressive trail shoe that I like for one thing. We kind of all went back and forth about, spikes or no spikes. I didn't want to wear them just because I, I hardly ever have. That whole nothing new on race day mentality was going through my head. So I ran in a pair of Peregrine eights, I think. They're they didn't do so well. They slide all around, even in a tiny bit of mud. So, I mean, maybe having something a little more aggressive would have helped. But I mean, I stayed upright for the most part.
But those are actually my go-to for trail races. I can't really say too much about mud because you know what I mean. Like I'm always sidestepping like the main part, but like bouncing off of rocks, I think they grip good. But like mud, like you said,
Mhm.
at times. But again, is it the shoe or is it the conditions? I don't do it enough to say either way as well.
Yeah, same here. It's funny you said about sidestepping. It's such a simple concept, but I had somebody that I was running with for a little while telling me to, kind of do that. And it's such a simple concept, but it's like, I don't know, your eyes just gravitate to that path. And I kept finding myself going back into the middle of the path where, it was beat down and muddiest at the worst, but definitely something I learned was, yeah, when I did move off the center of the path a little bit, that definitely did seem to help.
Well, you also don't want to ruin the trail, so you always try to stay as much as you can on trail to preserve it. But at the same time, it's like, if this is going to help me, maybe just today, I guess we'll break the rules a little bit.
Right.
So you were talking about the weather being a factor. You said it was cold out, but when you say it was a factor, do you mean it was just because it was so cold, or just because it was wet, or because it did snow for that little bit?
Yeah, I had a lot of concerns about the night legs because it dropped down. It was in the teens, I know that, and wind chill factor was probably single digits. Um, I, I just feel like that would have to zap some of your energy. You're going to sweat and that core is going to work so hard just to keep you warm, and hypothermia would be an issue. I mean, there were multiple creek crossings. um, yeah, I can't imagine running those legs, those nighttime legs. Kudos to Sean. I think he was starting somewhere around 6 o'clock and ran till somewhere around midnight, and then Lori took over at midnight till basically sunrise, especially with her added mileage. But yeah, I can't imagine doing that.
Yeah, I think the story I heard was the winner. I think his name was like Trevor Fry or something. I don't want to mess it up, but I believe his first name was Trevor, who won the 100. They said his like eyes were like freezing over by the time he was done, and I think the way I was looking at the weather, I believe at 100% he had like icicles and they were just like freezing shut by the time he was done.
Oh, I can believe it. I can believe it. They said the course iced up overnight, which, I mean, yeah, it's cold, but you would think with all those people moving and mashing it up, that's pretty hard to refreeze when you got feet tramped on a trail over, constantly. So that tells you how cold it was at the trail itself got icy.
All right. Let's see here. Do you have any other races coming up or big plans for the summer or goals that you want to reach?
Yeah. I I'm gonna try a 50 miler here in May. Never done that. I've never even done a 50K yet. So we're kind of, I guess, maybe creating a breach of etiquette by skipping the 50K and going right for the 50 mile, but that's okay. Um, I was originally thinking I would try that more the end of 2023, but after looking at different options and different races that I was interested in, Highball to Thurman down in West Virginia just seemed like a really good option. Not too far, but yet far enough it'll be adventure, something really to look forward to. So that is coming up in May, and I can't lie, I'm a little terrified.
Is that a trail
um,
race or a road race?
it's a little mix of both. There's some road, there's some logging road, and there is some trail. I've heard the trail sections are not very technical. So that was, and it's, even though it's West Virginia, the elevation isn't too crazy. I think it's right around 4,500, 4,600. So not really much more than we did this weekend, and
Wow,
spread
so
out over longer miles. So
yeah, for 50 miles, like 4,500 feet, that's less than 100 per mile. That's like 2 PA hills.
exactly. Exactly. I believe it takes you along the river for quite a while, so that makes sense. Um, but we'll see. Like I said, I had a lot of reservations. Can I, go that far? But I took the option, the no award option, because it's like, well, I'm not going to win awards anyways. But a little longer time. Got 14 hours to do it in, and it's like just keep moving.
Well, I think right now, like you said earlier, that you're running like 20-mile long runs every week. To me, in my book, you're way ahead of the curve for your training for May already. I mean, that's to me is like the base, not even the baseline. That's like elite status if you're doing 20 miles per week, like as a long run.
Well, thank you. That you're kind.
Because that way, to me, when I say that is that 20 mile, if you do like a 20-mile long run every week, it lets you, train for your like 5Ks, 10Ks halves, or just jump to a marathon or a 50K or even a 50 miler, or even, you throw in another back to back long run, like 10, 15 miles the next day. You're already
Mhm.
training for that 50 or 100 miler. So I'm going to say way ahead of the curve, even though you might be a little bit nervous. I have no doubt in my mind that you're going to be able to like crush that 50 miles.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. It's ever since I heard that such a thing existed. It's like, oh man, I want to do that. You know, um, I, I don't have a fast twitch muscle in my body. My fastest mile was like 8.5. But I feel like that go long and slow. It's like, yeah, I feel like I could do that all day sometimes, So it's like, this is maybe where I fit in.
Hey, that's where Dean Carnassus made his living.
Yeah.
He always talks
Yeah.
about he might not be the fastest person, but he will. I don't want to say plug, but I guess that's it. A lot of people use that term is they just plug along and then they just pass people who go out too fast or don't know how to race, and it's just that steady flow and steady running that whole time is how people like him and others just crush the field.
Oh yeah, it is a great feeling. I got very lucky with my first marathon out at Pine Creek. There were hardly any people running it. I think 36 or 38 people. But from somebody who usually finishes back of the pack like myself, that was the first time I started actually passing people, like multiple people, and some were even younger than me, which I mean, I hate to say it, but it felt great. Nothing, no ill wishes towards them whatsoever, but when you're able to just, like you said, keep plugging along, and it's like, oh wow, this is the first time this has ever happened. Like, I want to keep doing this.
Yeah, it's always a great feeling, especially if whether you're riding a high or riding a low, and you just start passing people because you start getting in that group. What it does is actually makes you run faster, happier, and more efficient. In my mind, when those things happen, it just gives you that mental boost and it just carries you to that finish line.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. Was there anything else that you would like to add about the Rabbid Raccoon or any races that you want to touch on or promote or anything like that coming up?
I guess it is worth mentioning too. We're going to try to bring back the same lineup for the Baker 50 relay, which should be a lot of fun. I think, especially um, when you compare the two. Now, granted, I might be talking a different tune after the Baker, because that's going to be probably a very hot day of the year. But we all said as much as we liked the course with the Rabbid Raccoon, the time of year was a little tough. Just, still being winter in Western PA and being out there as many hours as we were and all those sort of elements, we're now kind of looking forward to the Baker, shorter legs too, 8 to 12 seems much more manageable for a lot of folks. And keep doing this sort of thing. I first time for me with a relay, and I enjoyed the heck out of it. I don't even think it was 24 hours passed before I said, let's do it again.
So
we'll make it happen.
You got the bug now. And I hate to say this, but once you do that 50 miler, you know what's going to happen. You're going to want that heaven. Yes.
Which I promised my husband I'd stop at 50 miles.
Well, he doesn't have to know.
I hear that a lot. I hear that a lot.
But I mean, again, with him, you get him out there and enjoying it and getting the family and crewing. I think that would make things a lot easier and maybe put his mind at ease. Because, I mean, it does, no matter what race it is, it takes a toll on your body. But it's always something that once you do it, you just feel so accomplished more than anything, no matter how you feel afterwards.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And I'm looking forward to the warmer race season. Usually he will get out to more races, and he actually trains with me a little bit too. He'll hop on a bike, runs, that sort of thing. So
well, that's
hopefully
awesome.
we'll convince him.
Yeah, because as I said before, I love it when families get out there together and spend time together doing physical activities, not just sitting around a TV or eating, which is what America does so much. But when people talk about their family getting out, whether biking, running together, exploring, I love hearing those stories because it just makes things more special, I guess, in my eyes, that, families just spending that family time together doing physical activities.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard in the winter. He's a little more sedentary, but come summertime, it's like let's do a lot of adventures. We like going to parks a lot, so it's like let's just every weekend let's be on the go doing something. So,
all right, well, I guess that's about it. Thank you for talking with me today. Hopefully, I'll get to see you guys soon. If I don't get to see you, hopefully your 50 miler goes well and your Baker relay. You guys crush it.
Appreciate
there. You
that.
have just as great experience there, and you have my mouth's getting dry. A great 2023.
Thanks, Dean. I appreciate that.
All right. See you later.
All right. Take care.